The Square Ball Podcast.
Hello, welcome to the show. Brought to you with Levi Solicitors, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Always.
Yep. LeviSolicitors.co.uk/the Square Ball to get a 10% discount on your legal fees. 15% available on
Will's Probate Conveyancing.
Well done. Excellent. Good execution, Michael. Thank you. That's over on the Phil Hay Monday Club. If you have a look for that, either on YouTube or in your podcast feed, it is there. Extra discount, 15% on those. Big three? The big three.
The big three.
Dan, Michael and Moscow. Fulham preview. This is part 2 of the show. Craven Cottage. Should we rewind and go back to the game at Ellen Road earlier this season, which caught us by surprise a little bit, didn't it? I don't think we expected to happen what happened.
It was a fairly early-ish indication that we were in trouble, I think, this one. Because I think we all expected we might win that. And then we turned up and we were fairly well beaten in the end, despite taking the lead. It was that little run of games because Bournemouth was not long after this as well. And that was another one where we went, okay, we're playing a newly promoted team at home, get an early goal, everything will be fine. And it wasn't fine because Mitrovic scored, it all went to shit. This
was the 4th defeat on the bounce, wasn't it? So I'm looking back down the fixtures now, and it was Palace away where we lost, and we lost at home to Arsenal, went to Leicester and lost 2-0, and then this was the 3-2 at Ellen Road. When Jesse Marsch was, let's face it, he was on the brink at that point, but then we went to Liverpool and won, and then beat Bournemouth by the skin of our teeth.
It's the game where he should have been sacked, probably. I say looking back on it, I think I thought that at the time as well, just because it felt like it was falling apart defensively at this point.
Particularly as we were heading into the World Cup as well. We're on 2 fixtures before the World Cup there.
Yeah, I mean, some of the goals in this were just terrible as well. Like the defending on them. The Mitrovic one, Meslier maybe was a bit soft at the near post, but then the second one, Decod over Reed, is just completely unmarked. There was also this was one of the games where we had a corner and they just cleared it and were through on goal about 10 seconds later. Meslier saved it, but it just looked so horribly untidy, did the defence in this game. Whereas now it's shod right up.
Yeah, it was a sign that, because at Leicester when we were awful, we'd made 4 changes, and then we came to this game, there were 6 changes from Leicester, and it was worse, and it's kind of, Marsch is just looking useless. He'd got Frankie Schima, who was our assistant at the end of last season, his old pal from Salzburg, but had decided to just, he was just doing it from home this season, sitting watching the training sessions on telly and going like, yeah, tell him to run faster. But he was actually in the stands with a laptop for this, so it was kind of a sign that Marsch was getting the reinforcements in, and it didn't do a fat lot of good in this game, but did against Liverpool, I suppose.
There was hope for me in the form of the FA Cup game down there, where we were kind of just finding our way with Javi Gracia, and you thought, yeah, we've got a little bit of something about us now. This seems to be heading in the right direction, because we gave them a good game up to a point. Once again, the age-old story of not taking your chances. We had the goal disallowed, of course, as well. Ruud said there was the push on Wilson, all that stuff. But we looked all right, didn't we? With, albeit, a side that was changed for the Cup.
We were the better side in this. They just scored a couple of brilliant goals from... The first one was like 35 yards out, wasn't it? Something, it was ridiculous. That one that he curled past Melly. Adams lost the ball and Pellegrini just picked it up and put it perfectly into the corner.
Kicked it dead hard into the net.
It was hard, but it was also nice and bendy.
Yeah, this was all the big takeaway from this game was that we'd made like 30 chances and not scored any. So I was like, oh, why can't our strikers score? And if only that was still the biggest problem we had, then it would be hopeful. But yeah. And Rutter's goal shouldn't have been disallowed either, should it? So he would have... How different could he be with a tap-in under his belt?
Maybe this is the thing that happens for him. Maybe he goes there, he's familiar with it. It's that I've scored here once already. Get me goal. Take us, charge it up the table. It's been very doom and gloom this week. I mean, we are recording actually right as Javi Gracia is doing his press conference ahead of Fulham, which is quite handy because we've got the quotes to hand.
Has he announced a slew of deaths in the training camp or anything? Just to make it even worse this week?
Nothing like that. Yeah, he's just,
he never does that, in fairness.
He just tends to talk very generically, doesn't he? He's just saying we need the points. We're coming from 2 important defeats and we have to change the dynamic. And he was talking about the fact that we competed well in the 6 games prior to the last two, and we've got to get back to doing that. He has to solve problems, not the players. Analyse why we've played some parts of these games differently, and get back to the way that we were in the games beforehand. We did it then. We have to do it again as soon as possible. And he's saying what he's seen in terms of the reaction to the last couple of weeks is the players being very disappointed and with a desire to change to perform better and look forward.
Well, that all sounds good in theory. Do we...
much like Leeds United as a concept.
Do we expect to see much improvement?
I mean, why not? Why not? I know there's plenty of reasons for... I said this over on the Phil Hay show, which is coming out on Friday. Never underestimate this football club's capacity to surprise you. It's mad. It's a madhouse.
It's normally in a bad way.
Not always. No, it's not.
Nearly always.
It's not always, Michael.
Yeah, nearly.
I know it's a lot of the time. But just when you think things...
I'll be honest, that second half against Palace surprised me.
Just when you think things are darkest, good things can sometimes...
Well, like after we played Palace and I thought it was the darkest, then we'll...
Yeah, like that.
Like that, yeah.
But it's true. We don't need to be so relentlessly negative about it all the time. It feels bad at the minute. Let's make it unbad.
Yeah, I mean, Fulham are not brilliant. We just recorded Phil Hay before, and he was suggesting that all their underlying stats say that they have outperformed and they're higher in the league than they should be. And it wouldn't be a great... If we did stay up, it wouldn't be at all surprising if next year we finish above Fulham, would it? Just because of the nature of that bit of the Premier League is, there's not a lot in it necessarily. And they also don't have Mitrovic. They don't have a little scum bastard who can play up front instead of Mitrovic.
Although he helped us at the weekend, do we need to drop the LSB tag?
No, he'll never drop that.
It was always affectionate.
Yeah.
We had it when he was scoring goals for us, we still called him.
Could he be a little scum bugger? No?
No. And he got an assist as well. I enjoyed the assist. He basically was trying to get on a bouncing ball, lost out in the tackle, but it must have hit him last. And then when whoever it was scored the goal, his entire reaction, because he was lying face down on the grass, was just to put his head in his arms and go, I'm in pain. I quite enjoyed his little contribution. But his goal was good, actually. Not the most... It's weird because if you think he's taken a ball from throw-in, which was great. Actually, yeah, let's talk about Fulham's Dan James scoring against Everton. Everton being switched off from a throw-in. Sean Dyche's Everton. Tarky was miles off it. Absolutely beautiful to watch. It just makes you think, it's not helping. There's the weird contrast between... Because I'd listened to some podcast interview with Sean Dyche about his leadership style and what he's doing at Everton and all the his processes and his beliefs and stuff. And it's all quite, fairly interesting to an extent. And he's got a bit more to him, like the way he balances going to gigs to relax and all that kind of stuff, and how he manages being recognised and how he doesn't get recognised. It's all quite interesting stuff. And then you come to this and you can't get Tarky to switch on from a throw-in. Fucking hell, it's not working. It's just not working. Everyone's saying, Everton will stay up, Dyche is the master. Well, I mean, I would actually... Dyche and Everton in the Champo seems like a good combination with him saying all the right kind of stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if that worked pretty well, because he seems well into the idea of rebuilding the club from the ground up. But no. So Dan James was switched on from the throw-in, chipped it over Tarkowski's head and then onto his other foot and finishes, and you think, that sounds like Cantona against Chelsea in '92. It's not really that good. He kind of scuffs it over his head. It's not the cleanest stuff. But what was nice about it as well was his celebration, where he kind of runs towards the Fulham fans and he just kind of has his usual kind of resting Dan James face. But then as he sees the fans celebrating in front of him, it's like the happiness comes back. It's like, they're really happy. And I've scored a goal. I can't remember when he last scored a goal. It's probably that one against Hull that we couldn't remember if it had happened or not, because I'd only seen like a 15-second clip of it on Twitter and I didn't know if it was real, but it was real. But it was like that was all coming back to him, and then he did a knee slide. Like, fucking hell, Premier League goal, I could celebrate properly. So all coming together really well for Dan James. So that's good.
Okay. Just looking at their last few games as well, obviously they did beat Everton. Prior to that, you've put on the sheet, Michael, that they lost 1-0 at home to Fulham. So Fulham beat Fulham 1-0, which you actually
didn't mean that.
You meant West Ham, didn't you?
West Ham, yeah.
But because you're incompetent, you put Fulham.
They beat themselves.
Yeah. And then Bournemouth beat them. Prior to that, it was Brentford and Arsenal. But
yes, they've lost to some not great teams, was what I was trying to say.
And we're not great.
We are not great.
They're a strange old bunch, like we were talking on the other show about their new stand, and they are kind of like an option for tourists, really, aren't they, Fulham?
I mean, they're quite fundamentally quite a nice, inoffensive club.
And they do well. You know, they get into Europe. They got to the final of the Europa League, didn't they? And they have, and because of their ability to kind of be attractive to players like Willy and Leno, they'll always have like a reasonable pool of decent players, which means they should always have a decent team. And some years it'll probably work really well, like it's worked well this year, and it worked well the years when they got into Europe, and they could get into Europe this year, couldn't they?
It's unlikely.
Very unlikely now.
Yeah.
They've given it a little tickle. So they should always be doing that. But then some years they'll just throw it in the bin and they'll just be relegated out of sight. So they're a funny bunch, but they sort of exist to be a decent team, like a good team, especially because, I mean, this sounds like Fulham fans might pick up on this and be like, oh, you've been incredibly disrespectful. But Fulham, not long ago, were just Division 4 Fulham. They're not, they're very much, the rise has been incredible, and then to sustain it. So it's not surprising that some years they'll be completely off the boil because they shouldn't be there.
I mean, when you consider what else is nearby them in London, you kind of consider them like a boutique almost style club, don't you? Like slightly smaller ground, loyal local fan base, all seem like decent folks.
And you can go watch them.
Yeah.
Like, you can't really get like Chelsea season tickets, Arsenal, like the cost of all that. They've kind of, by having that weird tourist section, it's sort of anathema to a lot of...
it is very expensive though.
Fans. Yeah, but if you're doing it as a one-off kind of treat thing, you get to see a good team like Leeds play. So, but they've carved out this niche that works well for them, and it's kind of good for them. Congrats to you, Fulham.
We're going to be in the lucky pyjama combination of black, grey, orange shorts and black socks. I think most likely.
Yeah, it can't be the cheese kit, can it?
No, because the light dark thing kind of is too similar. Will we finally, have we won in that one yet? Will we finally bag it? We should have won at Spurs in it.
Don't think we have.
Don't know. I will work that out and we'll come back to it on the match ball maybe. But what would you do with this game? People say Meslier should be dropped. I don't think he will be. Right backs?
Just don't bother.
Yeah.
I said that on the Phil Hay show. Play a false 2.
Who plays false 2?
Don't matter, does it?
Or just do 10?
Doesn't matter.
I mean, Liverpool did the thing with the right back playing in midfield.
But that's because we didn't have a midfield.
Maybe if we do that, we'll gain in midfield. Mm-hmm. And as long as no one realises and puts it down the right-hand side,
we do.
Absolutely fine.
We do that. We don't go for the central midfield thing, but we do at times shuffle to a back 3 while one of the full-backs goes forward. So it's not completely impossible. That, but I don't think we're suddenly going to be like, lads, you saw how Liverpool played. Let's do that next week.
That? Should just be really good on the counter-attack and absolutely hammer people by passing accurately.
Brendan, you can play Mo Salah.
Yeah. But there are some... Because Gracia is kind of a reactive coach, or at least he has been so far, somebody willing to adapt. It's not impossible that we go for 3 at the back or something. Is Harrison a viable right wing back? I mean, Bielsa used to flog him like a Shire horse up and down the right wing on his own. So it is within this team's recent memory to play with just one person on the right side of the pitch and make them cover the entire 100 yards. Whether the fitness levels are still there for that kind of thing, or whether it would even be helpful or desirable. Meslier, I don't know. It would be... he looks very forlorn. Like the goal that Salah put past him, I just felt sorry for him. I know some people were saying, he shouldn't be being beat at his near post, but Mo Salah shouldn't be standing 12 yards away from him in space, just picking a spot and just going like, I'm going to hit this ball really hard at you. And there's nothing, like, it just comes down to pure luck at that point as to which direction, whether Meslier could guess the right way. And I think he probably did the right thing of just standing there and just going, just fucking put it in the net.
We've got some intel on the 2 I think that everybody wants to see in, which is Wöber and Willy Gnonto. And I think this is the closest that we've had to an admission that maybe Gnonto is still nursing the effects of that ankle injury. Javi saying that he's trying to protect him a little bit, but he's ready and he's available. But also just scrolling down to Adam Pope's comments where he's kind of expanded on it a little bit. and said, there are many things we're not doing well because you can see the results, but it's important the way that they work every day. I believe in my squad. Some of my players have little issues, not in the best condition, training 2 or 3 days a week. So maybe they're just trying to kid gloves him back, and maybe they've targeted this run of 3 games where they can unleash him a little bit and then maybe protect him again afterwards.
It did seem weird that he brought him on when the game was kind of lost with Gnonto. I did think that the other night.
Is that a thing where he's building up minutes though?
Maybe, but I don't know if he's actually injured. It feels better. It feels like rest might be better than that. But I mean, well, I am a doctor, but not a conventional one.
Well, you're a doctor, but you're not there on scene, are you? Until you've assessed the patient.
I don't have a good prod at it and stuff. Dig a thumb in to his ankle, be like, that hurt.
It seems like Wöber has become the talisman for all this now, doesn't it? Like, I think everybody would relax a bit having him in at the back, and he's in better condition than last week, says Javi, so a decision is to be made. When he was available, he played and had very good performances.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to see him come back in for Strauch, which seems the obvious one, and I'd like to see Gnonto in for Aronson if he's available.
How are you arranging our forward line?
I'm putting Gnonto in the same position as Aronson, which is kind of rolling around squealing. Bless him. No, I would have it, but I think he can play centrally, Gnonto. I mean, he has played centrally before, and he seems to have the skills to do it in terms of he seems to have decent vision. He's got good awareness of what's around all sides of him. He's strong enough to hold it up if he needs to. We've seen he can cross a ball if he pulls out wide. He can shoot if he's on the edge of the box.
You're saying a free roll?
He just seems...
Just going to give him a free roll.
Why not?
Yeah, give him a free roll.
Just let him play instead of Brendan Aronson.
Yeah.
Is about as far as my thoughts have gone.
Free roll's not a bad shout, to be fair. As long as you do the defensive work in attack, a free roll, I'm all for that.
And he runs around a lot as well. So admittedly, on a broken ankle, it might not be that easy for him. But
well, you've got Jackie, Sinistera, and him. If you had that as your 3 behind whatever striker it is, and I know we fall into a 4-4-2 shape more often than not, but Sinistera could tuck in at number 10 as well, couldn't he? If Gnonto happens to drift left and vice versa. Let's do it. Let's give it a go. Just try, do something different.
I was back to me get Sam Greenwood in nonsense this morning when I was trying to think of the changes we could make, because he was technically a 10 way back before Jesse Marsh got hold of him, and what it felt like we missed against Liverpool was everything. Yep. But then when you drill it down to some of the components, and basically with the Aronson question is somebody who will get the ball and pass. Like Aronson's just a bit too frantic, and I can imagine. Well, whenever I've seen Sam Greenwood play, the things he does quite well is through balls and passing it to creative players. And that's what we've really struggled with lately, is trying to get the ball to Harrison or Gnonto or Sinistera or Bamford or Rodrigo or anybody who can then be in a good position and score, because Aronson's just not quite got the patience of and the ability to see the picture. So I was nominating him as kind of an option, and then also for that.
Thank you for talking about a thing that won't happen.
And then also for that thing of
special teams,
set pieces, set pieces. Although
it's weird because him and Aronson are more or less the same age, aren't they?
Yeah.
But I think you can kind of tell that one of them was brought up in playing football in Sunderland, and one of them was like college soccer in America. It's quite a different. It's quite a middle class. Nice environment is soccer in America compared to England, where it's a bit more. I don't know. It's a bit more of a sport played by rough lads in England.
Well, that's it, and there is, it sounds reductive, but there's an element of that with Greenwood, is that he is a tough lad and has been through this before. Like, it was a surprise when Marsh threw him in at Brentford last year, but absolutely was a part of the most of the tensest game for a while and came through it without too many problems. So he's got that kind of. He's terrible at tackling, though. He's absolutely awful. Whenever we play him in midfield, and he got sent off for the under-21s for just like the stupidest lunge, and that's why I think further forward might be the thing for him, just getting back at 10, doing what he was pretty good at.
He won't
happen.
play anywhere.
No, it's going to be Aronson will start, and it'll probably be the same team.
Do you think that the order of the fixtures has been a little bit more favourable to us this week? Because it's felt like we've been playing after everybody else in the last few weeks, whereas this week we've got Arsenal-Southampton Friday night game, which you expect to go one way, i.e. Southampton will probably win. given how the football gods hate us. But then we play Saturday lunchtime ahead of Palace Everton at 3:00, and then Liverpool Forest, and then Bournemouth West Ham playing on Sunday.
I think just sort of making us play seems unwelcome.
Should they just give us the points?
Maybe it should be played overnight behind closed doors with no television coverage. And you just wake up in the morning and get the result, and that's fine.
I was thinking
and if we lose, then they lie.
I was thinking about that this week because the Man City game is probably going to end up being moved, isn't it? Because they have gone through in the Champions League. And I was thinking, can we just arrange with Man City that we just call it 1-0 to them?
Especially as it's going to be on a Saturday night, more than likely. Maybe like a Saturday 7:45 kickoff.
Just 1-0, because they would probably take that because they obviously need the win, and a win's a win, isn't it? And I guess it's not a gamble for them.
Yeah.
Fine, let's all have a rest. Let's all
not
have a week off.
Injury to Haaland or anything like that, or the risk that Calvin Phillips might not be available for the closing stage of the Champions League. So works, yeah.
So good. Fulham versus Leeds Saturday lunchtime. Away win.
Yeah, maybe this is where football's been going wrong. Is we need to just start fixing the results, and then
I think it has been tried,
and then turn the players and the managers and all the stuff into like outsized personalities with storylines. And instead of wearing the kit as designed by Andrea Radrizzani's son, see if that lad's got any ideas on leotards, and put some ropes around the pitch so that's a bit of just to add some visual interest and make it springy and get rid of the balls. Yeah. And then they can fight, but not hurt each other.
Yeah, it's fair enough.
So Leeds United to out-grapple Fulham.
Yes.
On Saturday. Good.
Off the top ropes.
Excellent.
With a metal chair.
It'd be a really big ring as well, wouldn't it? But anyway, I'm looking forward to it. There you go, part 2, done and dusted. You can go back and watch part 1 if you haven't done that one yet. Heroes and Villains on the way for you as well. Look out for that in your feed. Part 3 coming up.
The Square Ball Podcast.